So let's talk about one of the biggest myths on the internet, private browsing. We're going to peel back the curtain on that little spy icon and get into the nitty-gritty, the mathematical truth of what is actually happening when you pop open an incognito window.
You know the feeling, right? You launch a private session, the whole screen goes dark and sleek, and for just a second, you feel like you've completely vanished. You've gone off the grid, totally free from anyone watching. Yeah, you feel like you've suddenly become this person, a ghost in the machine, weaving through the web without leaving a single footprint. It's a pretty powerful fantasy, this idea that you just flipped a switch on some kind of digital cloaking device. But is that what's really going on? Not even close. That feeling, it's a total illusion. From a network point of view, that dark mode window is basically a mathematical lie. Think of it less like a privacy shield and more like a psychological pacifier. So let's break down exactly why that is.
Okay, first things first. We need to get one thing straight, and that's what incognito mode was actually built to do. Its purpose is super specific, and it all happens right there on your machine. At its heart, private browsing is really just this, a local amnesia protocol. All it does, its only job, is to tell your browser to forget everything you did, your history, your cookies, all of it, once you close that window. It's not designed to hide you from the internet. It's designed to hide you from the next person who sits down at your computer. And this slide just lays it all out, doesn't it? On the left, you've got the myth, this idea of total bulletproof anonymity. But the reality, over on the right, is much simpler. It's really just about housekeeping on your local device. It hides your browsing from your spouse, your kids, your roommate, not from your internet service provider.
And this is the real kicker. This is the most important thing to get. The very instant your request to visit a website leaves your computer, that local amnesia means absolutely nothing. The so-called invisibility cloak, poof, it's gone. So, if your browser isn't actually hiding you, what's going on out there on the network? Well, this is where the basic fundamental rules of the internet take over. And trust me, they don't care what color your browser window is. You see, every single time you type a web address, your computer has to ask for directions. It uses something called the Domain Name System, or DNS. The best way to think of it is as the internet's giant phone book. It's a step you can't skip, and it leaves behind a very, very clear paper trail. Look at what's happening here. Even in incognito mode, you type that URL, and where does the request go? Straight to your internet service provider. As you can see right there in steps 3 and 4, they find the address for you, and then they log the whole thing. They know what website you went to and exactly when you did it. This is honestly the perfect analogy, especially if you're browsing at work or at school. You might feel anonymous behind your little dark window, but the network admins, they can see everything. They have a dashboard showing every single website you visit. You're not invisible at all. You're just wearing a silly hat in a place where everybody has to show their ID. But it gets even crazier than that. Let's talk about how modern tracking works, because even if you could somehow hide from your ISP, the websites themselves have an incredibly clever way of figuring out exactly who you are. Yeah, you heard that right. All that talk about cookies is kind of old news. The real game changer is something called browser fingerprinting, and it works by looking at all the unique little quirks of your computer and your software setup. When you visit a website, it can quietly ask your browser for all this seemingly harmless information. Things like your screen size, what fonts you have installed, your time zone, even details about your graphics card. Each one of these little data points is another piece of the puzzle. And here's the thing. When you combine all of those individual, seemingly random details, your fonts, your hardware, your language settings, the final combination is completely unique. It's like a digital fingerprint. And the mathematical chance of anyone else on the planet having the exact same one is pretty much zero. And that's the bottom line. It doesn't matter if you're in incognito mode. It doesn't matter if you clear your cookies. The cold, hard math of your unique setup identifies you with terrifying accuracy. Your browser basically shouts your identity from the rooftops, and you'd never even know it. So, after digging into all of this, the local amnesia, the network tracking, the crazy math of fingerprinting, what are we supposed to take away from it all? It really boils down to this. The internet has fundamental rules for how it works. Data has to be requested, routed, and identified. You can't just bypass all of that with a simple keyboard shortcut. Control-Shift-N is a feature for convenience on your own computer, not a secret weapon for online anonymity. If you want real privacy online, well, that's a whole other ballgame. It takes a deep understanding of how networks actually work. It involves complicated tools like encrypted DNS and meticulously hardening your browser to make it less unique. It's a serious technical challenge, not something you solve by clicking a button.
And that really brings us to the final question for you. Now that you see the mechanics behind the curtain, what are you going to put your faith in? Are you going to trust the friendly user interface that's designed to make you feel safe? Or are you going to trust the math that dictates how the whole system actually works?